There's been a lot of talk if Destiny 1 remaster is happening or if it would be a waste of resources compared to, just improving Destiny 2 or making Destiny 3. And I want to just throw my hat into the ring. Someone who's played Destiny since the very beginning, for the last 10 years. Um, it would be, honestly, this is, even though I really like D1, I really love it, and I prefer over D2 in many ways, it would just be a waste of time to remaster D1. There's a couple of reasons for it. The main POB that a lot of people have is on the PvE side. On the PvE side, Destiny is in a unique position where you can just take D1 PvE content and add it to D2, right? Keep in mind that some of the best content that Destiny 1 has to offer is already in D2. We already have all the Glass, Crota's End, King's Fall, some of the strikes such as Devil's Lair, etc., etc. At this point, I mean, we're just really just missing the raid, and and hell, missing the Ray Rather machine, which I think eventually will be added to D2. I think Button is just saving it for a break in case of emergency situation. But I'm sure Rather machine will make its way to D2 one day, someday. But there's a problem. There's something a lot of people don't want to admit over Destiny 1. That is a Destiny 2, especially on the PvE side, is just a better game. Like he'll even take Rat. I actually recently did Rat a while ago, and pretty much the most of that raid, you're just throwing balls at each other. It's a very compared to D2, it's a much simpler raid. Hell, even if you compare it to Brood of Nightmares, so Leviathans or the Leviathan raid, it's a much easier raid. It's a much excuse me. I mean, Leviathan and Brood of Nightmares is a much more complex raid compared to Rat the Machine. Now, of course, they were to bring that right over to D2. I'm sure it'll be updated with new mechanics and all that, and that I'm sure that would add a lot more depth to the raid itself. But if you were just take the D1, if you were just to remaster D1, I mean, it would be fun for nostalgic reasons, but I don't think it would age very well because Destiny 1 was it was a much simpler game compared to Destiny 2, especially since they had to develop with the PS3 in mind, and sorry, and and also the player base has improved since then. The player base has improved. There's a reason why there's not a lot of completions for Salvation's Edge, the fourth encounter, because it's actually a pretty complex raid encounter. Everybody needs to know what the hell they're doing, otherwise you're just not going to do very well. You're not gonna get that raid done. Anyway, and then there's the other rest of the PvE content D1, which is pretty mediocre. The campaigns are pretty much a complete joke for the most part. I know that's gonna pop some people off, like, oh, the Taken King campaign was pretty good. No, it really wasn't. It was too easy. The lore for it was great, like the lore and all that, but like the actual missions themselves, they were pretty bare bones. To be honest, that's pretty much all Destiny campaigns up until Witch Queen. Until Bunny took the campaign mode in Destiny seriously, it was pretty. The campaign was just there, just to have like a story, right? Just sell you the expansion pretty much, with cutscenes and all that. Introduce you to like a new enemy faction or bosses or characters. But it was a joke, The only thing the only thing the Taken campaign had over, say, Destiny 1 campaign, the vanilla, is that it actually had a plot. Destiny 1 campaign, you're just going from planet to planet doing nothing, and next thing you know, you're speaking to the Queen, and next thing you know, you're on Mars, and then you're in the Black Garden, and campaign's over. Nothing's ever really explained, but I'm sure everybody knows that. But that's the PvE perspective over D1. Like Destiny 2 PvE for the most part is a drastic improvement to D1. And people who disagree, I mean, I don't know. They're either blinded by nostalgia or they just didn't play D1. I don't know. They're either blinded by nostalgia, and then there's like other minor things like there's those like minor things that I've seen people see, like, oh, the environments were better in D1, which I mean, I get it, but like, is that really that important? I personally don't think so, and I don't think it's that important. I don't know. So, but that's the PvE perspective D1. But I want to talk about the PvP perspective because I'm a PvP player. Well, I prefer the PvP in D1. But what I mean by that is the design of it. Because if you play the current state of PvP in Destiny 1, it's a sad joke. But not because it's terrible. It's primarily because they just nerfed everything to the ground and just made it really not fun. It's designed very well. Like it's a really fun game. I never understood Destiny was a serious PvP game. You know, you got some primary weapons. You have access to special ammo weapons at all the time. You get your abilities relatively fast. You get your supers really fast. And if you pop off, you can have 3 or 4 supers a match. You know, there was a high emphasis on high TTK, emphasis on headshots and all that. Generally, the better player would win. The better mechanics, most importantly, would come out on top. But I digress. But even then, remaking D1 would be a waste of time. Why? Because the current state of D1, as I mentioned, is fucking terrible. Okay, it's just not like I could go on a long list, but TLDR, they nerfed everything to the ground. Like auto rifles are complete garbage, like straight up dog shit. Doctrine of Pass is like the only usable auto rifle. Other than that, autos are just fucking terrible, just terrible, abysmal. Just don't bother using them. Hand cannons are also in a similar boat, but not completely. If you have like a Gyro Palindrome or just doing them, by Gyro, we're talking sword shot, rifle barrel, rangefinder roll. They're fine, like, but even they're not that great compared to D1. The bloom is too bad. The range is still not great. Like the maximum range hand cannon can have in the current state of D1 PS4 is 24 meters. For record, when Shadow came out, and Bunny nerf hand cannon range pretty harsh. The lowest you could have a cannon was 25 meters. And that was with like a common hand cannon, right? So realistically, you're probably using, your hand cannon was probably somewhere around 26 to 27 meters. And then you add in rangefinder, you got 30, 31 meters, right? So yeah, hand cannons just have no fucking range. Like if you're not even if you play D1, and you can still find people to play it, you'll see pretty much everyone is just using the same two hand cannons. And it's because all of the hand cannons are just fucking terrible. And it's a shame because I like using 150s, especially since they got rid of them in D2. But it's impossible to use a 150 in this game. They have no range, and the bloom is just really bad. You're fighting at like fucking, I don't know, 8 meters before damage traffic kicks in. It's fucking abysmal. Pulses and scouts are pretty good for the most part. Pulses did catch a couple of nerfs, but they're still pretty good. But the problem with pulses and scouts is that they require a laning playstyle. You got to play like a battle droid, essentially, so the two weapon types that are meant for aggressive play, autos and hand cannons, are just out the picture. They're just simply not good. So shotguns were nerfed pretty harsh, and their range is pretty abysmal. Similar to hand cannons, again, the only archetype where it's the highest impact because there's no balancing. They feel clunky due to the handling nerfs. What else? Snipers have the same thing. They nerfed their damage, so you can't snipe them in the head, which is lame. Can't be the hero. They're clunky due to quick draw nerves and snapshot nerves. Shotgun have the same thing too. Fusions don't have that, but that's because Fusions weren't hit by handling nerf because they got the charge time component attached to them. Sidearms are, they're there. They're fine, but people find them kind of annoying because it's only got for special ammo, so people just kind of camp with them. They just AP you with them, which can get very annoying. So if you were to remaster D1, you kind of have two choices, right? Either you remaster the current state of D1 on the PS4, which, I would buy it, don't get me wrong, just for nostalgic purposes, but, it's like for the PvE, I think players would just get bored because you've already played most of the content, and most of that content, like I said, is just inferior. Like, Courtesan in D1 is a sad joke. Nothing like D2, and D2 is an actual proper raid. D1, it's a buggy, broken raid, an unfinished rush raid, and obviously now people can think that it's fun because, oh my god, you can solo it, but at the time, Courtesan was a black eye for Bungie, but it was not good that you could just cheese code in many ways, pulling the plug or whatever. The fact that he glitched out like crazy and chased you inside the rooms, the fact that you could solo it, as I mentioned, there's a reason why House of Wolves didn't have a raid, and it's because Courtesan was not received well. Obviously, over time, it's not getting necessarily aged well, but people thought it was cool because, you could solo it, which gave a bunch of inspiration to do dungeons, But besides that, it was not a well-received raid at the time. It was not received well. Vault of Glass, a very simple raid. Destiny 2 Vault of Glass, it's not that much harder, but at least it speeds it up. There's more enemies to deal with, and there's like slightly more mechanics. Manic in D1, you could literally just auto power that entire raid. It's also impossible to wipe in the D1 version because there's unlimited revives, and the end rate for Atheon is just, and the Templars just, they just get more aggressive. There's no actual wipe mechanic, so as long as someone keeps reviving each other, you can just keep doing it over and over again. Then there's the fact you could just cheese the damn raid, like, you know, you could cheese Templar, Oracles, and the one where you got defensive conflicts is just by standing on top of the rock, just not jumping down when the encounter starts. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I mean, come on, man. So, King's Fall doesn't have that problem because it actually added some mechanics to actually combat normal mode shenanigans, but I digress. And then there's the rest of D1 PvE. Like I said, it's much simpler. I think I find the strikes in D1 to be a little interesting. I like how they have like set pieces like tank battles and all that. But again, when you get to the boss, you can pretty much beat any strike in D1 in under 10 minutes, even in Nightfall mode, and then just completely nuke them. There's no mechanics whatsoever. And also, half of the strikes, you're just traveling from one place to another. Off the top of my head, like, this is like really bad on, say, this one Venus strike where you gotta drop down to fight like a Vex Hive, a Vex Mind or something. I can't remember the name of the strike right now, but you go like deep on the ground in a cave. Can't remember the name of it, but it's an example of one that's a problem. So back to the whole D1 remake thing. Either you update the current state of D1. People have their nostalgia fill and they do Ride the Machine and all that, but then they get bored because they've already played the content and it's honestly gonna be inferior to D2. Or or you do like a World of Warcraft classic where you get to play the original state of the game, and I wouldn't mind that for nostalgic reasons, but also because the PP would be so much better. But then the rest of the game sucks. There's less stuff to do, there's less content, and there's less quality of life. So either way I see it, Destiny Remastered is a complete waste of time. Anyway, I'm out of time. See ya.